Hi, I'm Ranger Erin, and we're talking today about winter adaptations. So our animals that are out here during winter, that are not hibernating and not migrating, they've got to deal with kind of a stressful situation. So there's not as much food, it's definitely a lot colder, and then sometimes you've even got some tricky movement situations where you've got to move across a surface that might be snowy or icy, and it's going to be a little bit harder than an area that's not snowy or icy. Even we humans have to deal with winter, and we do things like wear a coat, wear gloves. We've got nice warm insulated homes to go home to. If we've got to move across a surface, we have even invented different ways to move across snow, like cross-country skis, snowmobiles, and snowshoes. So we have a few winter adaptations as well. When we're thinking about our animals, just like our coats, these animals can grow thick, warm winter coats. And if they live in an area where you can expect to have snow all winter long, they can also change the color of their coat. I've got two different types of fox furs right here. So you can see I've got the red fox fur over here. I've got an Arctic fox fur over here. If we look at it from the side, you can see that red fox, which lives in areas that aren't quite as cold as that Arctic fox, it doesn't have as much fur. Also, that Arctic fox is going to blend in really well with this snowy background. So they're going to be camouflaged for winter. Some of our other animals that don't have fur, like our birds, they actually have a special type of feather that's called down feathers. You may have heard of a down comforter or down coat. That is the type of feathers these birds have that keep them really insulated and warm. It's like they're walking around with their own feather coat, and they can fluff up those feathers, and they look a little bit extra chubby out here during winter because they're trying to make themselves a little bit warmer with their big, warm feather coat. Some other animals are gonna pack on a little bit of extra weight for the winter. So our squirrels are out here looking extra cute because they put on a lot of extra fat, which is not only gonna be a source of food for them, so they're gonna burn off some of that fat when food is scarce, but it's also gonna insulate them. So again, it's gonna keep them warm. Many of our marine animals, so think about walruses and narwhals and other creatures like that, are gonna have a very special type of fat that they have on their body that's called blubber. And that type of fat is gonna help them to deal with the icy cold waters of the Arctic that they swim through. Can you imagine swimming through water that might be below freezing? Well, this is the reality for them, so they have really good adaptations for staying warm. And then the last kind of cool adaptations that we're gonna talk about are big feet. So thankfully down here in Kentucky, we don't get super deep snows, but there are places where they have super deep snows. Talk about up to your knee or even up to your waist. And it is tricky to move through a landscape that is really deep snow. So the animals that are used to having to live with these very deep, wintry, high snow for, sometimes 6 months, usually have very big feet. Because when you have a bigger foot, it's going to spread out the weight, and instead of having to break through the snow, sinking down into the snow and breaking through it, they can just walk on top of it. And it's kind of the way that humans, seeing how some of our animals dealt with that, they actually invented snowshoes to do the same thing. So you're just spreading out the weight so that you can walk on top of the snow. And that way you can move a little bit more quickly if you need to. So I've got a couple of hoofed creatures here. We're gonna take a look at their feet. So our white-tailed deer and our bison buffalo. You can see how much bigger that buffalo hoof is. Even though it's a bigger animal, it's got a much bigger foot than you would expect because it does deal with those snowy landscapes a little bit more than our white-tailed deer. Another set of feet that I want to show you are snowshoe hare and our gray squirrel. So that snowshoe hare has such a big foot. It is almost as big as my hand. It's not that big of a rabbit, but it has really big feet. So big that we even named the creature after its big foot. It's got a snowshoe rabbit. It's got that big feet so that it can hop on top of the snow, versus that gray squirrel, which is not a rabbit, but is just a little bit smaller than that snowshoe hare. So we've got two creatures, very different sized feet. First activity that I want to ask you to do is to just do a little brainstorm session. You can either write these down or you can draw them. I want you to think about the way that humans deal with winter. What are some adaptations? I mentioned a few, like coats and snowshoes, but what are some other ways that humans have dealt with winter? For an indoor activity, you're going to play around with making a blubber mitt to experience really cold water. You're going to need some shortening, you're going to need some type of strong tape like packing tape or duct tape, and you're going to need some sandwich bags. And all you're going to do is you're going to put some shortening inside of a sandwich bag and then put another sandwich bag inside of that and seal it all up with tape so that you've got kind of this sealed. I'm not actually touching any of that shortening, I'm touching a bag, but the whole thing is kind of a squishy, sandwiched shortening. So that's that fat that's going to keep you warm in those cold waters. Hand with the blubber mitt on and one hand without. And go ahead and try that out, see how it feels. What does that feel like?
The one with the blubber feels really warm, but the one without feels really cold.
On your wintry hike, I want you to be on the lookout for any winter adaptations that you might see. So you might see a nice warm insulated squirrel nest up in a tree. You might see some birds that don't look very sleek but look very puffed up, so they're trying to stay warm by puffing their feathers up a little bit bigger. You might see some of our squirrels that are really chubby, or you might even see them trying to go into some of their hidden caches of food in order to make it through the winter. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you all next time.